Welcome to Section 4. In this section, we're going to talk about association modeling. Specifically, in this section, we're going to talk about the theory behind association modeling. We're going to start off by giving some examples and talk about its objectives. From there, we'll talk about the basics of association modeling and some of its applications. After that, we're going to go through a demonstration of how to use the a priori model. We'll talk about how to set it up and some options. From there, we'll continue our demonstration and talk about how to interpret the rules found in an a priori model. Finally, we're going to talk about how to do an association model, but when you have tabular data. In this video, we're going to talk about the general idea behind association modeling, and we're going to provide some examples and some objectives as to why you would do this kind of procedure. Specifically, in this video, we're going to provide some examples of association models. We're then going to talk about the general purpose of association modeling. Why would you do it? From there, we're going to dig deeper into the purpose of association modeling and really why we're building a recommendation engine. Finally, we'll talk about the business objective, the next best offer. That's the real reason why we're doing the association modeling. Perhaps the best way to begin talking about association rules is to begin with a few examples. Probably the most common example of how to use association rules is in regards to a grocery store. So let's say, for example, you walk into a grocery store and you're thinking about buying chips and beer. We know that these two items are purchased together frequently, and so you as a grocery store owner, what do? Do you want to set up the beer and the chips right next to each other to make it easy for your customers to pick up these two items? Or do you want to set them up so that they're on complete opposite ends of the store, so someone walks in, picks up the bag of chips, and then has to walk around the store, maybe might pick up a couple of other items to also pick up the beer? So in terms of setting up a grocery store, that's an example of how you can use association rules. Another extremely common example is Amazon. When you go on Amazon and let's say you're going to buy a book, you find the book that you're interested in, and then you see down at the bottom that it will say something like customers that bought this book also bought these other things. And so it makes you aware of something else that you might potentially be interested in. Third, and also very powerful example, is the way Netflix operates. With Netflix, what it does is it does the same thing as going to the grocery store or Amazon, but ultimately, what is powerful about Netflix is that it can give you recommendations that are not just generic, that apply to everyone, but it gives you recommendations that are specific to you. And the reason it does that is because it has your historical behavior. So you don't have to come in as a guest. Instead, you're already registered, you have an account, and Netflix knows, okay, these are the kind of movies that this person likes to watch. These are the kind of movies that this person enjoys. And now I can make a recommendation that is specific to the type of person that you are. And the way it does that is because it actually does, before it does association modeling, which we're going to talk about in this section, before Netflix even does that, it actually does a cluster analysis so that it segments you into specific groups. And so it seems as though the recommendations are really tailored to you, but those recommendations are really tailored to people like you. So what is the purpose of association modeling? Well, the first thing is that it's going to look for associations in the data. What things tend to occur together? Okay, so what grocery items are purchased together? What items in general are purchased together? That kind of thing. And then what it does is it creates conditions for these rules to exist. So if you have this, then you're likely to get that. That's basically it. The main idea here behind association modeling is that really there are no hypotheses. We're letting the data just speak for itself, because this is the way that we find these unusual combinations. The classic example in association modeling is that there are people that go into a grocery store and they're going in to buy diapers and beer. Well, we never really would think of those two things as going together, but you may be going in to buy beer and then you realize you need to go get diapers for the kid, or maybe it's the other way around. You're going in for diapers and you realize, you know what, I need some beer as well. And the other final thing about association modeling, not only does it have no hypotheses, but really there are no assumptions either. We're just letting things fly. We're seeing how the data point comes out, and it really is all happening at one time point. One trip to the grocery store, one trip to the video store, one trip to Amazon, things like that. Now, there are times where you can take time into account, and that's called sequence modeling or sequence detection, and that's a slight variation on association modeling. Now, what's the main purpose of association modeling? Well, it starts off with taking point of sale data. Okay, what's happening at this trip at the grocery store? What's happening on at this website? And then we end up doing market basket analysis. That's really what association modeling is. We use an algorithm, and we'll talk about the different types of algorithms that are available. That ends up creating a model for us. Now, once we have this model, we then go and we will take a look at customers' historical behaviors. We'll use that model to build a recommendation engine, and then we can predict probable behavior. And that's the goal. Now, why do we do this? Well, there are several business objectives as to why we would want to build a recommendation engine. The first is cross-selling. So let's say you're going on Amazon, for example, and let's say that you're going to buy a camera. You know which camera you'd like to buy, you select it, and then you're offered other items that might potentially go with that camera. Maybe batteries, for example, or maybe a special flash that it could use or things like that. You can also use a recommendation not just for cross-selling, but also for upselling. So you know which camera you'd like to buy, and then you see a recommendation that you see, well, you know what? Customers that bought this camera also looked at these other cameras. And you realize, well, you know what? This camera has all these additional features, and I wasn't really aware of that. So you may end up buying a more expensive item. You can also use a recommendation engine for substitution selling. So you as a company, you may want to sell product A, this camera. You have a large inventory of product B. And so maybe you'll have a sale, and again, you're making customers aware of that. Or you may sell product C that gives you a higher margin, so you end up making a bigger profit, you as a company. And again, you're offering that as an option to your customers. And finally, we do this for customer satisfaction and also loyalty. So again, when you're going into a grocery store, for example, or Amazon offers Amazon Prime, where you get specific deals because you're a loyal customer. Same thing when you go into a grocery store. When you have a special card that allows you access to a grocery store, the idea is that they get to know what your purchase patterns are like so that they can tailor different recommendations to you that make a little more sense.